Welcome to the SoulAbility Superhuman Laboratory, where we uncover the secrets to upgrading your mind, body, soul, and business. There are darknesses in life and there are lights, and you are one of the lights, the light of all lights. Bram Stoker's Dracula. On today's episode of the SoulAbility Podcast, we have badass mentor Marci Lock. It is always a pleasure to have someone on the show who is totally in line with their purpose and their inner light. Marci shares her story of how she transformed her own life from waiting tables for a few dollars per hour to becoming one of the most sought-after coaches for high-level entrepreneurs in the world. We all have the power deep inside ourselves to live our purpose. It's just remembering our light. It's remembering that you are always a badass, in Marci's words. Marci always believes that when you fully love everything you are experiencing right now, you'll see that everything in your life is a gift. We go deep on this episode discussing topics like meditation, Marci's morning and nighttime routines, DNA activation, ayahuasca, and much, much more. Marci is a truly amazing woman, and I really think you're going to love this episode. Please enjoy. Welcome, Marci, to the show. I'm really excited for you to be here today.
Me too.
This has been a long time coming. We've been trying to connect, but the universe finally has aligned and allowed us to do this.
Yeah, the multiverse, my friend. There's a whole multiverse out there to support you.
Oh, I know. I've seen it. So you're a badass in your life. You're a mentor to a lot of people. You're shifting people's consciousness. You're doing like some really amazing things that, are going to change the world.
They already are, yes.
I know. And a lot of people are awakening up now. I feel like this is a time that like things are really starting to shift. But let's give the listeners a little background on you about how you got here to this point. How did you become a badass? How did you become this person that's shifting people's consciousness?
Cool. Well, the first thing that comes through is it's actually to say that how did I get to a place where I finally became a badass is actually devaluing that I was always a badass, meaning you are always a badass.
Right.
You and every single one of us is already perfect, whole, and complete. You're already divine being. Your whole intention of being here is to express your divinity and have the most badass, fucking fantastical, amazing life that looks exactly the way you want it. And you have created the perfect processes and experiences to expand yourself and ascend to allowing yourself to remember that whole and completely. So I just want to reaffirm for everyone that it's like, there's, I think the more we reaffirm that we're like, if you do and when you you get there, you've made it. It's like, well, that's actually completely untrue.
Yeah, I totally agree.
You're honoring it right now. You're in the process of it right now. So it's like, I went through all my perfect experiences, which I'm still doing right now. So, if you want to talk about experiences, the type of experiences that I chose, I guess what I'm more known for is a lot of people hear the story of how, I was a $2 an hour waitress, with 1 and a 4-year-old to feed and $10 to my name. And I found out I had a cheating husband. I was raised actually Mormon and LDS. I was raised on a farm. So very scarcity, lack consciousness in a really strict religion because I was raised Mormon in Utah. And so it was very much like you have to act this way, show up this way for God to love you, for you to be what everybody wants. And so very limited in expression and even having a voice or even, it's like very much perfectionist identity. I have to show up how you want me to and only say what I can say and all these kind of things. And so, fast forward to when it was, I found out, I got married in the temple, was a virgin till I was married, did all the things that I thought I had to be, loved by God and by family and just fit into society. And when I found out I had a cheating husband, it was one of the big milestones for me is to really look at I'd started studying self-empowerment and things like that from around probably from a young age, but from probably around the age of 17, I really was like started to dive in. Yeah, I would say I stayed very surface, like the secret layer surface, like, oh yay, think the thoughts and this isn't working, right? So it was a beautiful gift to have that experience, and I became a waitress making $2 an hour, and within 6 months I was on TV as a nutrition fitness expert for a ABC4. Within months after that, I created my program, Mind Body Breakthrough, that was in gyms. And I started to shift and create, a big change. And so, but going through, like I said, making $2 an hour it was actually a documentary my life is being made right now, because you went from $2 an hour waitress to making, I have clients that are paying me up to $1 million to work with me personally. And they're to charging $1 million like Tony Robbins within 6 years. And to me, it's a big, long journey, but that's the gift of seeing how fast things can really shift and evolve for you when you actually go internal. Because my whole commitment became going internal and going down the depths of how I'm creating my reality, and how I got to learn and basically deprogram and unlearn all the lies and all the limitations and all the things that took me outside of my norm of how I was designed to be operated, which is I'm a badass. Of course, we're all badasses, that we're designed to be perfect and awesome. And yet what took me away from that? And how did I return myself back to operating out of love and light in this high frequency, which then of course only attracted flow state and bliss and, plenty of money and epic relationships and all these things. So that's kind of like a mini version, but you could say people say I'm really good at calling out the bullshit and I say it's because I was the bullshitter. I was the one who had almost every trauma, and I was hiding in limitations and lies and validations and little girl that just wanted to be perfect and good enough. And so from now getting to see all that, I can easily see the gaps in the internal disconnects, the micro to the macro that people are operating in. That is why they're creating the results that they have. And it's so simple. Once we see those things and we just bring them back into micro alignment, we bring ourselves back into this alignment, we literally have the results of living in awesomeness in every norm. And that's my main message, is that you're worthy of living in awesomeness in every aspect of norm, or as your norm every day. And if you're not in every area, then there's some sort of bullshit story, excuse, or validation you're still operating out of or believing or living in that's creating that disconnect.
I love it. I think that's the best explanation I've ever heard of somebody talking about their story.
Great.
And I appreciate it's that. Totally in line with the podcast and the way that I think the podcast is called SoulAbility, because I truly believe that you have everything you need inside yourself, right? And
totally
all the spiritual work, all the work, everything that we do is just uncovering the bullshit so that we can finally see our sense of self, who we actually are. And then once we start living in that and we remove all that bullshit, flow state and bliss, that just comes easy. It just happens.
Yeah. Well, and something you said that comes up is good clarity around that, is you said removing the bullshit. And this is what I think a lot of people why they actually stay in the bullshit, is they're stuck in this, I gotta fix me, I've gotta get rid of this, I have to change that. And it's actually not removing. So you could, in a way of removing it, would be, I would say, return it to source, meaning right. What we're actually doing is remembering the light, because actually even every single thing that we could ever see as negative or bad or wrong, or from some sort of story we were told, it's I believe there is no such thing as good or bad or wrong or right. There just is, because all things are true. So if we look through things through the understanding of what we've been taught in our human society and with our human brains, it's 1 + 1 = 2. It's logic. Well, the truth is those are just symbols and languaging we made agreements about, that we agree on, that means that, which is just based on one perception. And the truth is 1 + 1 actually can never equal 2, because 1 + 1 has to always at least equal 3, because your energy plus my energy is also an interdependent energy plus the energy of the universe. You can see how this has multiple ways that it could be true. Mm-hmm. And so to even look at all things through logic, which is we're taught is that's bad, that's wrong, this is dark, this is light, etc. So for instance, seeing my former, I call my former because it's a positive reiteration and energy, obviously, and it's in power. It's true. It's what it is. It's a choice of, my former experiences, my lover, my husband, etc. Most people would say they're ex, right? Which is just to me is a negative energy. So it's right. My former, when I look at and view, him, the experience of him cheating on me, when I see it out of the eyes of I take full responsibility, how I saw how the scared little girl that didn't ever think I was good enough, why I attracted that, why I literally, I remember finding myself at a time where I said, if I'm always a perfect mom and perfect wife and I look beautiful and all that, my husband will love me, appreciate me, and never cheat on me. So I was literally asking for it. I was focused on it. I was, all of that is why I created my experience. And when I see it out of the light that it is, that for what resonates for me is you could call it heaven, you could call it soul contracts, you can call it whatever you want. But at some point I asked this person to create this experience with me, to give me this understanding and experience. So in truth, he was actually showing up for me as one of my divinity beings, like a best friend. So he gave me this experience, which through what some people would say is bad or wrong or darkness or blame or shame anybody, is actually, it was the greatest gift of light. So when we see all things as actually, they were light, and they are light, because the only energy that truly exists is love. That's the love is the energy of creation. Yet we created fear, lack, scarcity. We created that energy. So there's either we're operating out of fear, which is man-made, or we're operating out of love, which is design creation. And so when we see all things as love, it's like you're actually remembering the light. Oh, I now see this experience that I would have, in some place of consciousness, I would have said, oh, he did this to me and that was wrong and blah, 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 not taking any responsibility for it. I can actually now see it through the light, that it was like, oh my gosh, this was something I attracted and I called in, and I had these beliefs and I had these perceptions, and this is how he supported me and served me, and seeing what was still inside me that I still get to love. How I was so afraid of myself not being good enough, I attracted and created that. Now I can see it out of love. And so what we're actually doing is we're remembering the light. And that is how you truly remove the pain, or the, what you're saying is the darkness, or the things where people want to be done with. They can only in a way be done with them and them not affect them anymore, not have the triggers affect them, by leaning into, embracing and loving them. And then they become non-existent. So I just wanted to make that clarity. I think that's beautiful for people to hear, that it's not actually fighting anything. When you're in fight, fear, scarcity energy, it's just like people in the day-to-day norm, they're usually in a, I have to, they're trying to think it through with their brains, and I have to fight to earn money, to do this survival mode. Notice that energy is saying everything's hard, everything's a fight, everything is force, and all you keep creating is the same ass shit, and you stay on the hamster wheel. But when we actually revert back to oh, I'm worthy of balance and to only operate with the people I want to, and to have my time, effort, and energy be doing my genius and this, we're in a totally different energy vibration that says, I'm worthy, bring on the awesomeness, and we receive it. So it's just these little alignment tools or understandings that actually give people so much more freedom.
Right. And people are asked, it is love in a way for those things to happen, because you're asking for it and the universe is like, all right, here it is. And it loves you. So it's going to give you what you're asking for. Yep. If you look at it at that aspect. Well, and
you're that powerful of a creator. I actually just posted something, I think, that was like, what if we actually saw feedback out of pure appreciation and gratitude? Because when you realize shit shows up, if you saw it as thank you for reminding me how powerful I am. Oh, what was I thinking? What was I speaking? What was I feeling? Well, no wonder I attracted that. And we saw it all as appreciation for the feedback, that's what now we can take responsibility for, so that we can shift our actions. Instead, most people just, see the shit as the shit, not the actual gift in the shit.
Right. And we need that shit to appreciate the gifts too, because we don't even know that the gifts are gifts. If we have gifts all the time, then what does it mean, right? Well,
the truth is everything is a gift, right? It's not actually this is shit and this is a gift. When you see, and this is why people will ask me, I've had clients in the past be like, Marci, do you ever experience shit? And I'm like, they're like, because I live bliss life. I live in super flow, super consciousness. And this is what I teach people to do. It's through all the internal alignment. And I mean, it's still there. They're like, I'll get people that'll be like, how the hell do you do the numbers that you do? Because I have $1 million enterprise, $1 million clients, all the way down to online programs for $100 or less a month. And all of this has a massive enterprise was built off of, I've still to this day never done one paid ad. I've never done target marketing.
Really?
I've only done sharing my message through organic Facebook. And so when people are like, I need the business strategy, I need the funnel, I need the website, I need more knowledge, all of that is just your scared little self, putting it outside of you, when the truth is when you're in alignment for the vibration of receiving. That's why I say the systems don't matter. If you're not in alignment with the vibration to receive, doesn't matter how much business coaching you put into and how many systems you pay for and how much stuff you do externally. Your internal environment says, I'm not worthy and I'm going to create resistance and it's all going to go to hell and I'm never going to receive. When you're worthy and you're vibrating that, it doesn't matter what systems you're using. It all works for you. So people, it's like some of the businesses I coach are some of the biggest businesses in the world, and they're not even on Facebook. So people are going to be like, how did you get them? And I'm like, they just showed up. They literally just showed up. and became, $500,000 to $1 million deals, and all these ideas and different things that have come to me have been because I'm literally in alignment to live in my highest state, which is, I believe I get to be in that place and that understanding. So when we can allow ourselves to realize, see, everything is a gift again. So it's like, there is no, I was saying how clients will always be like, do you ever experience shit? And I'm like, yes. And I don't even think of it as shit.
Right,
because
exactly.
every feeling of anything that doesn't feel good or resistance, I'm like, oh, interesting. What am I feeling? What's going on? And I teach people how to go internal to find what's really happening, because when we're trying to just use our mental programming, or I'll put it this way, your cellular memory and what's happening internally in your body, your feeling center, that is 500,000 times stronger than your mental memory, your mental programming. So when and this is where I was talking about earlier, like I was in it to a degree, empowerment, like the surface level, like where it was like The Secret, where it's like, okay, I'm going to think the affirmation and I'm going to visualize. Well, what's happening is you're putting just mental programming towards that, but your feeling body, which is 500,000 times stronger, is literally like, fuck you. I do not believe that. That is not true for me, right? It's like, I am not worthy. I'm not good enough. It is hard, blah, blah, blah. That is what's vibrating. And so until we learn to become in alignment with all of them, all of our operating systems in check, and also that we learn to operate as we are designed to operate, which is like feeling it through and seeing what's really going on, not just trying to bypass it with thinking it through and figuring it out. That's actually our scared little selves. So, it's just returning ourselves to, like I said, how we're meant to operate that makes it so easy.
Yeah, using intuition and raising our awareness to when those opportunities do show up, you're actually aware that they're opportunities. Like, I feel like everybody has those opportunities and they just either let them go by, or they ignore them, or they feel like I can't do that now. And it never turns into anything because they weren't even aware that the opportunity was in front of their face.
Yeah. Well, where most people, I feel like what you're referring to is, I think most people don't see them because they think it has to look a certain way.
Right.
So again, well, I'm going to start a business. I got to have a funnel. I've got to have a website. I've got to have, my messaging. I've got to, and they like are so looking at only it's got to show up a certain way that we're it's like we're a horse wearing blinders that can only see the stuff in front of us, and that we're not open to the universe giving us all the different ways it can be, instead of and I always tell people, when we look up and we go, so say for instance, me as a $2 an hour waitress, it was like, I couldn't have even imagine. I mean, there was not a cell in my body that could feel abundant, or I couldn't imagine making millions doing what I love, traveling. You were just like, oh my gosh, we finally get to connect, because I play all over the world and I take my kids with me, and like my life is a big playground. And so I couldn't have even fathomed an inkling of what I'm experiencing now. And yet for me to even look at the big picture of what I thought I could fathom, it would have looked like a big ass mountain to climb, and I would have had no understanding of how to do it. And it would have been like, oh my gosh, there's too much. And so this is what most people do. They're looking at the big picture, which in some form, yes, it's great to have the big vision. Yeah, I always say, like, it's like have your intention without having an attachment or expectation of how it gets to show up. You're just like, I'm going to an awesome epic life. That's where I'm going. I'm going to the top of that mountain. And now, but yeah, when people keep looking at that, they literally get like overwhelmed with like how, and I don't know what to do, and there's so much, they stay stuck in the same place. I always say, put your head the fuck down and look at the next inch in front of you. When you look at the next inch in front of you, you're like, oh, what? So if I'm, if I have a message to share, what would that look like? And we just ask the next question. What would that look like? How would I get to serve more people? And it's like, well, so when I started even doing $100,000 a month, I still didn't have a funnel. I didn't have a website. I didn't have, literally, I was just like, for the first time, I think when I started even using Facebook, I was just like, I went from working and operating in my program in gyms and doing TV to where I was like, how can I serve more people? And how does it not have to be in the gym 5 days a week, me teaching this mindset plus, like breakthrough with the body, etc. program? How do I serve more people and give myself more freedom? And it just asked that question. It's like, oh, what if I actually just, did a mastermind? And had the concept of masterminds come up. So then it's like, well, what would that look like? Okay, cool. Well, then all it is like, I'm just looking for like 8 people that I'm going to teach what I know, like, and share these gifts. And then, and so then it was just like, okay, what would that look like? What's the next step? Do a post. And this is the first time I started even using Facebook. And it was like, all right, I'm trying to be like, okay.
How long ago was that?
Gosh, what year is that? I don't even have a construct. I think it was around 2010. 13.
Okay.
So we're like 3 to 4 years, like not even, it was probably like, 2014, I'm guessing, somewhere around there, right? So it's like, that's even when I first just even was like, okay, so even to do a post, I didn't know how to do that. I was like, what is this Facebook thing? What's a post? It just all of a sudden was like the next thing in my awareness to go, how do I affect more people, or how do I raise my hand and express more that this is what I am here to share? And so it's like, oh, okay, hey, here's this thing that I learned. And if you're looking to learn this too, awesome, message me. And that's how it started, right?
And it's like that simple. And
that is. You got
people don't even realize that.
Simple. It's a moment at a time going, what would feel good? So see, if I'm staying in the vibration of like, well, this is the inspiration I'm having. What would feel good? How could I serve more? So if you notice you're wanting to create money, it's not like, okay, what do I got to do to create money and think it through? It's sort of like, oh, well, what would feel good? What do I love? How do I love to share? What feels good? And then it's like, well, this has been my mess that created my message. This is my journey. Like, I know how to do this. I know how to teach people this. So what would that look like? That would feel good for me. Not like, well, you do it this way. So you go to a job 5 days a week, I got to do it that way too. Or I've got to do it. It's like, again, what would feel good for you? What is your perfect creation for your life experience that would feel good to you? And when we just take it that step at a time, see, look at where I am years later, because I started that. Now I have everything from $1 million clients to $500,000 clients to $250,000 clients to a personal client mastermind to I have masterminds being run by my coaches. I have online programs. I have a supplement company. I have a clothing line. All that stuff has been done just inch by inch of like, oh, this is how else I can offer value. And built and created to now, my book, I have a documentary, I have all these other things. We have my Frequency Alliance businesses launching. Just that has come from me seeing more ways that show up again when we're open to like how I can serve. And it's like, oh, well, what would that look like? And if I take it an inch at a time, notice all of a sudden you look up towards your vision again and you've gone a mile. But most people don't even go a step because they're looking up and they're trying to figure it all out instead of just being in the present moment. And this is where I like something that, I'll offer your listeners and whatnot is I have some audios. I don't know if you ever got to listen to them, Michael. They're called Freedom, but it's bringing you back to understanding this is how we're meant to operate and how to catch yourself. So, because someone you could say, well, yeah, they go, okay, I want to do a business, but they get stuck in the thoughts and the things come up that goes like, well, what if people don't, respond? What if I don't get anybody? What if they reject me? What if they don't like my message? And we get stuck in our shit. And I actually teach you how you go, oh, interesting. Like, what am I feeling and how to go into that? Why is that? And getting clear on where the root is or the block or what's creating the resistance, and then shifting it to consciously responding. So then you do take that next step in action versus most people are so unconscious and they don't pay attention to this stuff. They just go, I'm going to go to the fridge and grab some food, or I'll work on that tomorrow, or I got to get more knowledge. And they create staying in. They just responded to the universe with, yep, you're right. And I'll just respond with like the same things that keep me in my comfort zone instead of knowing how to consciously operate. And this is why I say when most people just, what I really teach people to do is how to live moment by moment, how to live consciously versus subconsciously reacting to their old patterns, programs, and everything they were taught. Because from the time that you're up until 7 years old, that's your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind has no logical understanding. It doesn't go, well, dad was yelling at me because he was stressed. It just, little boy says, I heard screaming. I felt, like I'm a bad boy, or I heard that I was a bad boy. So what did I hear? What did I see? What did I feel? And what did I decide from that? It's all based out of emotional, which is like I say, we get to connect our emotional triggers and the memory and the vibration that we're holding from that. And then, so it's like, that's what your belief system became. I'm a bad boy. If I don't show up this way like people want me to, they won't like me. So then we create the patterns and behaviors, wearing a mask, holding back our expression, all these things, which again, expression, people always say like, I say the amount of money that you're receiving is a reflection of how much value you're giving the world and how much you love yourself. So if I love myself fully, then, and I'm just simply raising my hand, even organically on Facebook, just saying, hey, this is what I learned. And this is, my message. And I'm raising my hand. Guess what? People can see me. But see, if I'm too scared to even raise my hand and I don't love myself enough to do that, see, then people that have all these gifts are like, I have all these gifts. Why can't I make any money? Because they're not aligned to their own self-worth to be willing to receive and willing to say. So that's why I say when we're we're operating out of our subconscious. We're operating preconditioned and trained in a way. And we don't even know that we're doing it until we become aware. And then we can start to operate consciously moment by moment. Then that becomes our new way of being, our new programming, our neural pathways reset. And it's just effortless. It's meant to be so easy. It's our human brains and all of this disconnect and conditioning that has made life so hard for us.
Yeah. I couldn't have said it any better. Like that's so on a different topic, I want to know, what's your morning routine like? Because all this stuff you're talking about, like shifting people's consciousness, shifting your own consciousness, like learning how to love yourself and align with who you actually are so you can live the life that you're supposed to actually be living. Like, what are you doing on a daily basis?
Well, I love that. Probably the number one thing I could ever give anyone, because, people always want like the quick answer, right? Like, what's the one thing?
Yeah.
There
never is one thing. It's like,
well, and if I could really sum it up to one thing, this is probably what it would be, is that if you could fully love everything you're experiencing right now and everything you've ever experienced, if you saw it all out of love, that's our entire opportunity here. Again, to return to, because when we see all things as okay, like all things are true, we're all dark and we're light. Just as much as I'm an angel, I'm a bitch. Just as much as like all of the emotion, we're here to have the human experience of all these emotions to fully express our divinity. And so if we just saw all things as okay and part of like our experience we chose into it in love, then the vibration matches, and it's an energetic vibration of love and remembrance and light that we allow ourselves to accept more. So I would say like, that would be like, if I could say that's just your journey every day and every moment. If in every moment you're like, I love what I'm experiencing now, how can I love it? Even if it's like, looked like shit from the past or it triggered me or et cetera. It's like, oh, I love that my scared little boy or scared little girl actually felt sad about that. And why is that? Oh, because I felt like I was being judged. And, oh, interesting. Like, well, what is really true? And, what do I want to create from this? And this is where I teach like those 5 steps, which, again, I'm happy to, have your peeps have
I'd love to share
audios if they want. Cool. And so as far as my morning routine, I believe in being very intentional. So most people that like, a lot of times, even when I get introduced to speak on stage or whatnot, they're always like, it's interesting. This comes up all the time. People always like, first off, they always say I'm unapologetically me, because, you might get really quickly that I don't really give a fuck what other people think, because I fully love myself. And I know that any projection onto me from someone else is simply what they're afraid of within themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah. The other thing I hear a lot is they're like, Marci is so like, I've never heard somebody speak so intentionally with her words. Like everything that comes out of my mouth, I know is a creation. So I know that in my operating systems, my thoughts are declaring something, my perceptions, my words, my languaging system, and my feeling center. And so and that's why, I get clear, even if it's like, from us even saying, well, we want to remove this. I'm like, actually, that's an energy that's like saying something's wrong with ourselves. Instead, we get to reshift that to, oh, we're actually remembering the light. And so I'm just very clear and intentional. And from understanding how to operate in alignment with all these programs in ourselves is how everything matches up. So you think of like, if you're, again, we refer back to like, if somebody's saying affirmations, but they don't feel it, they don't line up. And then no wonder they're never creating and manifesting and creating the result that they want. So I say the more I expand, the more intentional I get around everything. And so, I definitely have a morning and a nighttime routine. I even have it in my programs, 40 some odd meditations that I've created. 2 of them are called cellular structure regeneration. Like one's a nighttime where you're literally talking to your cells and you can even tell your cells what to do. It's like, I can be lean and ripped and shredded, and I've dropped all the stories of how that has to look to get there. It's like my body just stays lean, ripped and shredded because I literally have designed my cells to believe that and to tell myself that. And so there's everything from, recreating around health to like, so I believe this, I really believe that your next day starts the night before, because what happens is all night long, you're literally soaking in your thought patterns and the things that you end your day with. So when everything shuts down, if like someone's looking at themselves in the mirror and they're like, oh, like they're this stomach fat, I'm so fat, or they're thinking about their list of their things to do that they didn't get done for the day, right? Like we tend to look at what we didn't do and what was wrong instead of, because this is the way we're raised. Just like if you cleaned your room when you were a kid and you're like, Mom, I cleaned my room. And then Mom comes in, she's like, well, you missed that sock. We don't go, oh, you did so good. You did the best. And you did so good, right? We have been trained this way. And so really when we end our day with these put downs or these negative thoughts or whatever we end our day with, it is literally soaking in our subconscious mind all night long. So we wake up with that vibration, that feeling, and literally all the energy and all the output and everything has just gone out to create that to be our experience for the day. So it really starts the night before. I do, I'm very intentional, do ceremony almost every single night and like clear my chakras and just do meditation. And I have several meditations I teach in my program where it's just like clearing and looking at everything in your past out of gratitude and appreciation. Again, remembering if you don't have an energy of love towards, if you had any person that came up in your life where you're like, you have a negative energy. That's why like my former, I have only love and light for my former. I literally cry in gratitude and appreciation that he gave me the gifts of opportunity that I got. Because I see it that way. Now, I wasn't at that place before. I had to go through that. Yet, if there's any energy going from you that's like negative towards somebody, you're actually, in a way, they're still holding power over you, or you're creating, negativity. So I actually teach where you can think about any of your past experience and just see it out of love and gratitude and appreciation of what it taught you and who it allowed you to be, clearing your mind and then going into pre-paving your future and what tomorrow looks like, and almost like energy gridding. You can literally create and see it all to be there. And then you go to bed on that. I mean, holy fuck. Like that's like,
I love that you have a nighttime routine, because a lot of people focus on the morning routine and they totally forget about night. And I like to do nighttime stuff too. Because in the morning I kind of forget sometimes. At night, I remember the day and I can remember what happened, and like really set the intention rather than having to like wake up and try to remember everything else that happened the day before.
And you can get intentional about all things, and yet, so it's like I have a morning routine too, because I do believe it's like how you start your day is how you live your life, right? It's like how you're choosing to go out and focus on the day creation is awesome too. Yet it really does start the night before, because it's like presetting the day and all that subconscious programming. Everything is happening to prepare you to go into that experience. So when you just recognize how much of a divine creator you are. And that's why I was saying earlier, if we saw feedback as like shit showing up, we're like, oh, thank you, feedback, for letting me know I'm that powerful. I literally, I was thinking that stuff. I was feeling that. Thank you for letting me know what else inside me I still get to love. And now we can use that and create something greater. So it's the same thing as like knowing how powerful you are to utilize that ability that you have to this is where it's like, really guys, it's this easy. Why do we make it so hard as humans? We're like, oh, money is so hard. Relationships are so hard. Lack, scarcity, blah, blah, blah.
Losing weight so hard, all that.
Yeah. And all I'm telling you to do is you choose your thoughts, you choose your words, you choose to create your feelings to align and match. If you're, and that's it. It's like you have all the power. It's not based on who you know or what opportunities you have or any genetics or blah, blah, blah. It's like, I'm telling you, you just, take the time at night to literally think about and feel the energy about you being, having the experience you want. You wake up in the day and you choose moment by moment, like, cool, what would that look like? And you choose the thought. And if something doesn't match, it's like, oh, interesting. What's that about? I'm going to get curious. I'm going to love it. And I'm going to I get to take responsibility and shift into what is the new thought? What is the action I get to take? What is the pattern? And see, everything is that simple. That it's really all in your power and it's all moment by moment. And yet we make it so hard by putting it outside of ourselves, when it's really just a matter of who is willing. And I always say, like, to the amount that you're willing to receive, it's like really who's willing to be that clear with their words and like their languaging system that's happening. See, most people be like, oh, it's just the way everybody talks, complain about stuff. Well, you choose to focus on shit and you're choosing to focus on complaining. And those are the kind of people you attract into your environment. And that's why you have the life experience you do. But it's like, oh, no, that's how people understand me. I'm like, well, I that's actually a vibration.
That's probably how you understand yourself. That's
exactly. Everything's a reflection, right? And so when you see it as like, if I know that I'm this powerful, what do I want? How do I choose my own happiness? How do I create this for myself? So in the morning when I get up, I have actually, because just even knowing, I obviously have a lot of understanding and maximizing with the body too. I actually know that your body's still in detoxification state. So I drink a lot of water, and then I jump on the rebounder for a minute, or I take the dog for a walk and I pop in my audio. It's so funny. People like some of the stuff that I still listen to, I still create audios for myself of what I'm creating, and I manifest them so fast, you know? So it's like I'm listening to a book, or I'm listening to an audio, I'm listening to one of my things that I've created for like reaffirming like what I'm diving into. And so it's almost like the study expansion time, of course. And then I always get in my exercise and I get in like a clear meditation or like a process or like there's lots of different things that I'll play with and do to then set myself to be like, I'm super clear for whatever's next. Whether that be jumping on a podcast, like, you know, us getting to talk, or like I coached my mastermind today of all my personal peeps. And then I got to do a meditation before you and I talk, just so that I'm like a clear channel. So everything, it's like, then I get to, my days, literally like every day is like flow and peace and ease. Just like you and I like had a couple times where like we had to shift and schedule and change from travel plans to what other things that come up. But it's all, the biggest thing for me and that I teach is the most important thing for you is you to be in a state of flow. When you're in happiness and high vibe, all you can attract is the big opportunities and all these other things. It's like, why a $500,000 deal will come my way versus me scrambling, looking for little tiny bits and pieces, trying to show up in a mask of trying to show up so people will like me. When I'm operating in low vibration, that's what I attract. But when I'm in a high vibration, all you can attract is, you know, the same thing that like attracts like, and that you can attract, you know, the same kind of a thing. So if it's like catching a story or a thought that's creating suffering for you, it's like, oh, interesting. Like, why is that? What am I feeling? What's going on there? To then go, oh, well, how would I get to let go of that? And how do I get to create something different instead? And it's always in choice to stay in flow. And that's kind of the journey of giving yourself permission to be fully worthy of having it be awesome. And all the things that come up in doing that is like you creating your level of self-worth, you creating, you know, clear agreements and operating in core values and integrity and attracting those kind of people. All that stuff just kind of comes up as you're choosing this, like you're becoming aware moment by moment. And then that's when you're literally like shedding the shit off, like the old patterns, the old programs, all the things, and you're aligning to the new way of operating and being that is in alignment to them, with impeccable integrity of who you are. Because I will say this, if you really knew, first off, you're 37.2 plus trillion cells that are unique. You have your own voice box, you have your own fingerprints, you have your, you know, it's like you're a unique being. There is no comparison, because comparison is the thief of all joy, right? And yet knowing, if you knew that at your, like in your whole being, you knew that you were that unique and amazing, you were that much of a miracle, and you knew that whatever you thought and spoke and felt, you effortlessly created. And the creation happens effortlessly all the time. Just sitting here right now doing absolutely nothing, you are creating. If you knew you were that worthy and that capable of creating anything that you want, what would you be experiencing? Would you be flying, or would you be settling and sacrificing like you are now? And so when we're that in tune with ourselves, you go, if I know that about myself, the truth is, if you're in impeccable integrity with yourself, you could never say anything negative about you, because you'd know that you're a divine being of light. So to even say shit like, well, I can't because of blah, 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 or I have to blah, 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 or, you know, this isn't good enough. You just be like, whoa, that is so not fucking true. That is so off of alignment for who I really am and like the expression of my divinity. And that's what we're getting back to, is being in that place where it's like, of course I only deserve the very best and attract the very best. And I live in the very best because I'm a divine being, and so are you. And I can actually honor you in whatever experience you have and have no attachment or expectation or around me being like, if you choose something totally different. Like my family is still highly LDS and Mormon, and I am not. And I highly honor them for that's their belief systems, and they honor me for mine, because we've gone through the journey of just loving and honoring each other and getting to say, thank you, I appreciate that. And I can totally, you know, like the first time I was going to go back for Christmas and had my emperor with me, and my mom and her husband, like, we can't let you sleep in the same room because, you know, and I was like, totally understand that. Thank you for that. I can highly respect. And I'm like, and this is what's true for me, and that doesn't feel in alignment. So we'll get a hotel down the street and we'll just stay as long as we can, and we'll go sleep in the hotel. And we just got to choose to stand in our own truth of what worked great for us, and also honor what was there for them. And so it doesn't have to be this like, well, they don't accept me and love me and blah, blah, blah. This is the shit we create as humans, instead of just being like, cool, I honor your expression of and experiences that you're learning, and I honor mine. And that's as easy as it can be.
And that happens so often where people, especially with their families, they're like, but my mom's not going to love me if I do this, or my dad or my brother or whatever. And I don't know if you experience this, but usually when you just like live your truth and you just do it anyway, you end up finding the opposite. They like start to respect you even more.
Yeah. Well, what's beautiful about that you said is it's down to the simplest things. I remember when I was highly, focused on like body teaching, because I was like the nutrition fitness expert on ABC4. And obviously I started as a personal trainer, and that's why I started like mind body creation programs and things. And it was like, even thoughts people have of like, if I go out to eat with people and I don't have drinks, or I don't have all the crappy food with them, or I say, oh, I'm just going to get this, and can I get this on the side? And what are they going to think about me? And we have all these attachments about we don't fit in, or they're going to judge me. All that shit is just your own thing. But when we actually say, oh, you know what? Like I would love, like, to the waiter, it's like, hey, I would really love your support. I'm really looking for just this, or could you modify this for me? And can you create that? And it's like, awesome. Thank you. And it's like about you feeling good. Because if you're wanting connection, is it really about the food? No, that's just a story you told yourself. It's about, if you want connection, how do you get to ask questions and participate and talk to people and create connection? It has nothing to do with the food. We've created food and drugs and sex and all these things outside of us to give ourselves, to seek feelings that actually are not coming from within. So when we see it like, oh wait, no, it's not really about any of those things, but what I really want is connection and to be a part of it, I create that. It has nothing to do with the food. And when I say, hey, this is what supports me and feels good for me, and I'm honoring myself, most of the time people are like, wow, I've been really wanting to eat healthier too. And, like they're actually inspired, like you said, by you standing for yourself. And so what I teach I have a couple different programs. I have a Badass Breakthrough Adventure experience, like an Ascension Adventures, and I have a Goddess Revolution program. And I teach my women in that, our intention is, and this goes for men and women, but it's like, you call people to rise. You don't cower down to their level, and so that you feel accepted, and you don't want to step on their toes or make them feel. It's like you stand in your truth. So I always say you don't cower nor attack to big energy. So it's like, even if a hater, blah, blah, blah to you on Facebook, I don't cower and go, oh, and I don't also attack them back. I simply go, oh, thank you for letting me know that was your perception and your thought. This is actually what's true for me. And, feel free to not follow me if that doesn't resonate for you. I can honor them. I can claim my own truth. So I'm not cowering nor attacking. And I actually am just, so with someone, I'm calling them to rise, not by, let me pretend and just because this is what's normal for them. I just stand in my truth, and I can actually call them to rise, and I can actually only honor you by fully showing up as me and calling you to that experience as well. So when we drop the stories that are going on, we create liberation and freedom for ourselves, and we actually give people permission to do the same, which is such a beautiful gift.
And I think so that puts this thought in my head about, the phrase where everyone talks about, you are the product of the 5 people you spend your time around with. Yeah. So people are like cutting people out of their lives and trying to be like, surround themselves with people that they want to be like, instead of being more like the people that they want to be like, and attracting them without having to I can't stand that phrase, because if I was a product of the 5 people that I spent most of my time with growing up, then I wouldn't be here. I'd probably be in jail or on drugs or whatever, but I operated on a different level, and I decided to be who I am, and they kind of left my life, and then other people came and replaced them that were more like me.
And you clarified it in that when you choose to be it's like be the person. It's not like you attract the person that you are, right? Like, so you're saying, if I be this person that I stand in my bright light, what effortlessly falls away is the vibrations that don't operate in that. So if there are people that just want to stay negative, then they're going to fall out of your space, and you're going to attract the people that are. So I think basically it's like all things are true. You can see it as, wow, if I'm going to choose to be someone who's in alignment, I want to be around people who are in alignment, and I can choose to focus on that and aim for that. And I also know that it doesn't come from me just like you said, like hating people or shedding them out of your life, and just it comes from actually just choosing to be that person and choosing to look at your environment and go, because like me, I'm very sacred with my energy. So like, it was something that I teach all the time is like, I'm like, everything's a fuck yes in my life. Like, so from anybody even applying for any of my programs, we don't just go, oh, you want to pay? Cool. You can come to the retreat or you can do the program. I'm like, no, we are very clear on making sure it's a fit that serves someone and where they get to fit. And it's also like, for me, like any personal clients I take on, they become like my family, you know, and the people that I work with and all the energy that I give, it's like, it's in alignment that it's a fuck yes. It feels awesome. And I'm excited to work with this person. I don't go, well, we need the money. So We see when people do that and they're acting out of scarcity and then it's a resentment shit energy anyways. And they're pretending to be something so that the person will get this. And, you know, and then it's like whenever you approach something with fear, you plant that seed of fear into it. And it's like a virus that will eventually shut down the entire structure. It'll spread. So everything, like, so when even like me saying yes to you, I get a lot of people that, you know, want 5 minutes of my time or in the past. And like, they know, a lot of people know now, they're like, it's kind of like a little rumor. They're like, it's really hard to get in Marci Lock space.
Well, I appreciate that a lot.
It's because it's an alignment to me that I'm like, if it is an alignment that it serves both people, like I'm actually honoring. So when someone might reach out to me and say, hey, could we connect? And I'm like, thank you for letting me know you'd love to connect. What would you like to connect about? And I get curious because I want to make sure it's in alignment and I'm honoring their time and mine. Now, someone else could be like, you know, they might say, well, you know, we're both conscious, amazing individuals. We're powerful women or and I just think it'd be great. And I'm like, thank you. That's awesome. And I'm still unclear. I'd love to understand what's your intention. What are you wanting out of it? What are you seeking? So I can, you know, make sure we're honoring our time and commitments. Because, you know, whatever I say, and this is what I want people to hear, whatever you say yes to, you're saying no to something else. If I said yes to every Tom, Dick, and Harry that wanted my time or wanted to meet with me or wanted me to look at their product or I'm saying no to my kids. I'm saying no to my clients. I'm saying no to clients that potentially are a perfect fit for me to work with, but I'm too busy being a yes bitch to everybody else to then actually be clear on that's not on, like, this is where my time, effort, and energy gets to go. And so when I realize it's actually dishonoring to them, because then let's say, for instance, I go, okay, sure, let's meet up. And then we take an hour of each of our time or 2 hours or whatever it looks like. And we meet up and then we find out like, it's not a fit. It's like they want me to promote something or do something. And it's like, that was maybe their intention. They weren't really saying up front, because a lot of times in our society, we haven't learned to just be authentic and speak exactly what is. So we're like, hey, I'd love to get to know you more. And really their intention is like, I'm going to tell them about my business. And maybe there's a fit here, right?
Maybe I could sell her my coaching.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Right? And so then we realize it's not a fit, and we just took each other's time, effort, and energy instead of me saying from the get-go, getting clear. And when they finally get clear with me and they go, oh, well, I'd really like you to look at this. And you know, I had this thought, and I'm like, awesome. And I'm like, well, you know what? That's not really in the same, you know, I'm committed to putting my time, effort, and energy to the things that are in my business or in the same spectrum that I'm focused on. That's not something I'd you know, have any knowledge about, or I'd be putting, but you know what though? I know so-and-so who'd be a perfect fit for you. And also I can look at how I can serve them. So it's still honoring. I can say, you know, that's not a fit for me, and this is how I can support you. And so it just becomes, everyone got maximized and upgraded, but someone else now, like even in my community, I remember this girl, actually, she sent me a really sweet message, like honoring me and thanking me that at the time, it was like a year or 2 years ago, after we were at this big event and all these people, you know, she reaches out to me. She's like, hey, we're both in the community. And, you know, yeah, I know you were at the event. I'd love to hang out. And I'm like, cool. What was your intention on this? And I did the whole thing. Right. And because I said, you know, that just doesn't look like it is in alignment for my time, effort, and energy. You know, I support you, I love you, I honor you, you know, I'll see you at the next event, whatever. She kind of like told a lot of people like, yeah, Marci's a bitch, because she didn't want to hang out. She didn't want to, like, you know, connect and create more value. And it's like, people can create whatever story they want. Well, 2 years later, she's like, I see now how you taught me that I wasn't loving myself enough to be clear, to like, I was a yes bitch to just trying to make everybody, you know, and not really in integrity with myself and all these things. And she's like, I get it now. I see what you did. Right. And so again, I don't attach to the story someone else might have, because I know my true intention is to honor the person in integrity, to show up in what is a yes for me and how can I honor it's also a yes for you. And if it's not a win-win, it's not an alignment for an experience, because I believe and I know that conscious relationships are always a win-win. There is no settle or sacrifice, which is a whole nother concept I teach in epic relationships, understanding the principles of epic relationships. Yet, so even for me to say yes to you, I tuned in, felt into it, was like, yeah, it feels like your energy is really good. And I didn't have to know anything else versus like some people are like, oh, if you have so many of this followers or this or this, I just tune in. And I even had, this is interesting. I had one guy I got on to get on I think it was one that my team had set up, and I got on to do a podcast with him. And right away he's like, and I think at the time, one of my branding names is like, Fuck Yes Life Mentor. And so right when he was like, tell us who you are. I said, well, I'm Marci Lock. I'm the Fuck Yes Life Mentor. He's like, oh, no, let's start over. You can't swear.
Oh, you can't curse on my podcast.
Yeah. And I instantly said, thank you, my friend. I said, I think we should end it now then. I said that it wouldn't serve your audience for me to pretend to be something other than who I am, because I don't have an attachment to words. They don't hold a power over me that I'm like, it's just an expression. It's a passion, And so I'm like, I would never want to pretend to be something else. And then your followers, follow me somewhere else. And they're like, oh my gosh, she swears. She's, whatever. So, I mean, again, I had to just say, no, thank you. And when I shared that, I had haters and people jump online that were like, well, why can't you just pretend to be something else? Then you get more followers. Then you get more thing. I would never tell my clients to do that. I would tell them to show up in how the market wants them to. And I said, and that's exactly why I have the different results that I have. Results why I call in $500,000 $1 million deals, because I'm authentically being me versus me pretending to be something else, and I'm operating in a small, lower space, and I'm attracting something small. And that's, again, why it's like coming back to the alignment of who you are and authentically loving and being yourself.
It's so interesting, isn't it, that people always try to be like somebody else, like a model of somebody else, because the market's calling for it. But when we look at like the most successful people, like, for example, Oprah, everybody knows Oprah. She was not the example of what people thought she should be, but she just did what she thought she should do to be true to herself. And she's Oprah.
Totally. Right.
Now, all the most successful people, like actors, like the most successful actors, like they look unique. They're not usually like the best looking people. Like they're not like models, but they just are true to themselves, and they're just themselves. And then other people try to model them, and they're just not successful. They think they have to be the best this, and you just don't. You just have to be you.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up. It's just like, again, loving fully you and the unique being you are, because comparison is the thief of all joy. It's crazy thought to think that I could be like you, or my business should look like yours, or how I do this should be that, because it's like we're all literally uniquely different. Even twins are completely different because they have their own thoughts and experiences. And, again, it's just like, so how does it get to be fully you, loving yourself? Just like, it's like, go back to that one thing. If we wanted to say there was one thing, it's like love everything you've ever experienced and everything you're experiencing now. If you are loving yourself fully, you can only then continue to discover and expand and receive more, because you're fully being the gift that you are.
Yeah, that's everything, right? Just being yourself, and like really yourself, like not the self that other people told you should be, or the story that you told yourself that you should be, because a lot of people get stuck in that too. They become this person, this self, and they self-identify with this story so much that they totally live it, and it seems authentic, but it's not really them. Like they don't even know why they're acting that way, or they dress a certain way, or do the things they do.
What a gift of discovery, right? To now go, oh wait, who do I want to be? What do I like? And notice how it's always like, in one of the activations I do with my personal clients, we do like angel activation and then they're challenged to really look at like testing all their stories. And it's almost like, they're like, wait, do I like coffee this way? Or and it's like, I'm questioning everything. Like, oh my gosh, like I actually don't really like it this way. I might like it a different way.
Yeah, I never even tried it a different way. I don't even know.
Totally, right? So it's such a beautiful gift. And see, when we can see it that way versus someone being like, I don't know who I am, or I don't know. And like, this is what I think I have to be. And so it's like, oh, I'm so excited. And when we can shift it to operating out of faith energy, which is that love energy, it's curiosity, wonderment, and excitement. It's like, oh, I'm so curious to see like, what do I love? And like, who do I get to work with? And what does my message get to look like? And ooh, this feels good. And also this is what I'm feeling called to do. So what would that look like? What's the next step? And as I try that, I get feedback, and I can continue to flow with it and shift and change to create it to be more of what I want. Yet we're trained to operate in the fear-based mentality and coming from lack and scarcity. So when we can just catch that and like I said, like learn how to operate in the way that we're designed to operate, it just gets to be a fun adventure. It's just a moment by moment, like it's just a game. It's just pure fun and play.
So before we started recording, we were talking about some things that you're doing recently that are fucking amazing. I love it. Doing portal activations. And can you just go into more detail about what that is, where you do them? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. One of the businesses that I have, or what part of my business, and definitely something that I do with my personal clients, and has been one of the greatest ways for my own expansion, is one of my businesses called Ascension Adventures. And it used to be Badass Breakthrough Adventures. We've just like combined it now to where, like I've had retreats where I took high level, amazing beings that I've been working with and allowing them to go into the depths of the, jungles in Colombia, to doing all sorts of like sacred sites and different things, portal activations, to be able to go through deep transformational experiences that open up and activate their dormant DNA. It's almost like activating parts of your brain that have been shut down from your neural pathways, opening your pineal gland, which is like your intuition and center, the intuit I see, right? And your pineal gland is just like your psychic abilities, your multidimensional capabilities. Because even as I believe we're all superheroes, that's why we're actually attracted to superheroes. We're like, oh, superheroes, so cool. But we think like flying and what's
all those powers come from somewhere, the idea.
Yeah. And the truth is we all have access to way more than we even have ever allowed ourselves to even think. We think that that's different, but we're attracted to it because we actually are superheroes. We have just shut down our capacities, just like, we've been trained to operate out of fear versus faith. We've shut down our actual DNA and parts of ourselves in the activation. It's like our energy senses, all these different things. So the last, even though it's been several years that I started, going down to the depths of like the jungles and doing ayahuasca with my peeps, to doing different things to open up, like to dive deep into their remembrance. It's almost like one of my experiences down there, I would equate to like, I'll take people to the jungle for, we'll do like 5-6 days straight. And it's literally like doing 20 years of inner work, like doing up here, like 20 years of processing and I'm like, we did that in 5 days.
Yeah.
You let go of your ego and your shame, and you literally come out of it going, I know that I'm a divine being. I have only an infinite capacity. And I came out of the jungles and like literally when I even received, so last time I was there, I received my download for Billionaire Consciousness. I'm now just about to launch my Frequency Alliance business, which is literally $1 billion business. And it is going to change the game. It's like a pioneering, shifting the game completely of coaching from people like not just processing things, but literally being able to wear something where you're receiving activation every day in divine frequency. So imagine our goal is to be living in a bliss state, like an elevated emotional state. Well, you receiving frequency all day long, every day, where you're literally, your body is activated with just bliss emotional state, from the frequency of abundance to the frequency of divine love, etc. You receiving that all day long. And of course, I want to teach people how to operate. And so they're not just like, it's like I would never take someone to the jungle if I didn't feel like I taught them how to be ready to integrate it. Because otherwise they
so many people aren't ready.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Well, they go clear it and then they return to their shit lives and they repeat the same shit. Right?
And they're depressed. They become depressed.
Exactly. Well, and they don't. So it's like, again, for me, it's only in alignment if it's a fuck yes.
Yep.
So I always had it that it was my peeps that I would take to the jungles. Now I've created a system where, and what I was just saying is that the things that are so available there, like I came out of the jungle, it was a year or two ago that I came out and I really had the download. It's like, you now get to, work with people, with clients at $1 million level. So I came out of the jungle, again, just knowing that I had this ability and capacity because of the depths that I went. I came out and was like, hey, guess what, guys? I'm now working with clients at $1 million level. And the first thing people said to me was like, well, what? You're not Tony Robbins. And I was like, that's right. I'm Marci Lock, motherfuckers. And I am doing it. And within 30 days, I had my first $1 million clients. Now it's been like 2 years I've been working with clients at $1 million plus level personally, right? And then the last time was when I received the knowledge and the downloads from my Billionaire Consciousness, which is what has just shown up. So the things that are available to us that we just don't go to the depths of seeing when we're living in this society and are conformed consciousness is why we stay stuck. So that's a big part of what I do with my personal clients. And I wanted to create a way to give as many people access to these kind of activations as possible. So I created Ascension Adventures that anyone can actually, sign up and be able to be taken care of, to go down and go through the experience on their own or with one of my coaches. Or now, like the stuff that I did, I was telling you about in Europe, which was going through different, like to Damanhur, Italy, which is like one of the 4 energy grid lines, and taking people through massive healings to portal activation. So it's like we're opening up, we're activating our crystalline consciousness, our unity consciousness, our DNA, like all these parts of us that have been dormant. And then you come out of that like with this whole other higher sense of energy and understanding and operating, and just like this frequency that you're operating at, that just all these things that used to like trigger you, just they don't even make you blink an eye anymore. So now with my Frequency Alliance business, we're creating a way that not only lots of people can go get these activations, yet they can also, if they could never afford to go with me to Europe, they can actually receive virtual activations. Like we can actually record the cosmic energy field of what happens there. And then through our Frequency Alliance business, people can wear these crystals where they receive the divine frequency activation, and they can actually receive the activation. It also will be able to scan their body and see where your aura is off, your chakras, your biorhythms, and then give you the exact programming balance of what you require. It'll also be able to pick up and see if anything's going on in your body. So all of a sudden we become preventative about our healthcare instead of going to a doctor and guessing and spending all this money. We actually save money, and we create oneness and unity in like solutions, and we can give people healing and that, is specific to exactly what they need. So there's a lot of fun things with that. Yeah. I believe it's finally time and ready for humanity to allow ourselves to have it be this easy and this much more of ourselves to be known.
Yeah, there definitely is a shift in consciousness going on for sure. But like, so this weekend I was at a meditation course, right? And a lot of people there that were like, they go to all the things. It's a Kundalini yoga meditation course. They go to all the things. They go to Satnam Fest. They do Kundalini yoga all the time. They do meditations. But when you mention a tool like ayahuasca or psychedelics, they're like, no, I don't do drugs. Like they're almost afraid to use something outside of themselves, or I don't know what they might see, because you can tell when people are like right there, they're almost there, but they just need to take that next step, and then they'll see it all and they'll experience it. It's like reading a book versus like actually like going out and like experiencing the thing. Yeah.
But what's also true is there's no one pathway to the top of the mountain, right? So again, it's honoring that's what's there for them. And again, it's based on perception. So if somebody sees it as going outside themselves, because I've had people that, of course, that's one of the things that come up for people like, I was raised Mormon in LDS. You did not touch drugs. I actually, ayahuasca was the first, what you could call a drug, which it is actually plant medicine. It's
right.
In the trees, and it's,
I just say drug because that's what
that's what other people
say to me.
Right. And again, that maybe aren't as informed. And it's like, I don't want to use, I don't even drink because I am so in tune with myself when I'm, even from a networking event, whatever, I have no desire to be fuzzy or outside of myself. I actually want to be present. I want to hear what you're saying. I want to connect with you. And I love being myself. Like, I'm just like, I'm fun and I'm outgoing and I'm all these things. And you give me alcohol and all of a sudden I like get mellow and I'm not me.
Right. So I hate drinking.
Again, so I don't want to have anything that's outside of me. I actually see it as opposite. When I access utilizing these medicines and these things are meant to actually take me to a deeper place inside myself.
Right.
It takes me to a massive in-depth internally of seeing what I was afraid to see, seeing what I consciously blocked. Like I remember one of my first experiences was I got to see how I was holding shame in my body, which shame is the lowest vibrating energy, and how at 4 years old, I took on that I wasn't pretty enough and good enough. And like, I literally hated myself so much. I remember seeing myself walk through the halls and just wishing, like at school, and just wishing I had an invisible cloak. Like I just wanted to disappear. I wanted to, like, and all of a sudden I saw this little girl that just decided at such a young age, 4 years old, that I wasn't enough and I wasn't good enough. And I had all the shame about who I was. And I saw how that portrayed out into my whole life, how I hid, how I didn't express, how I wanted to kill myself, how when my dad passed away when I was 15, how I wanted to, I just wanted to kill myself and die. Like I saw the whole creation of it and I was like, oh my God. And I saw it out of beauty and love. I was like, oh, sweet little thing, this beautiful little 4-year-old suddenly saw I chose that as my perception, which gave me all this learning, understanding, and gifts, but now I could see it out of love. And so I no longer was like fighting the shame, or I loved that I shamed myself, and I saw those things and it dissipated into light. And I released, that's when I came out of the jungles and I, started coaching people at $1 million level. Like, it's like, because I, to the depths of my soul, found the truth and I found my light and I loved myself. And so it takes away what we're seeing outside of ourselves, I believe, and it allows us to go actually into the remembrance of our connection to the universe and multiverse. And so people would say like psychedelics having something to do with that. It's like, it's actually allowing you to go, what did I not see? Because I was seeing it through the eyes of my human condition, right, instead of the eyes of my divinity. So, and again, that's perception. So again, it's like when people feel called to it, and then it's getting clear of what it is. And so a lot of people have a misperception about it. And that's why I love talking about it, because for me, it still is one of the greatest ways. And I believe once you've gone there, you don't have to keep going there. So it's like, because I've done IA and different stuff like that, I can allow myself to tap into communication with the multiverse and like my higher senses and all this stuff without needing that.
Because it gives you a roadmap. It makes it easier.
I've been there and I've seen it and I've experienced that. And so now it's like I have these abilities that I've tapped into. It doesn't mean I have to keep going and doing ayahuasca. So people could say it as like, oh, it's drugs and you need this outside yourself. But it's like, once you've tapped in and found yourself at these levels, you actually have that connection source, and you still don't, so if someone is choosing to, you just get to continue on your own journey of what calls to you and the different ways to open and activate yourself. And that is what a piece of what I do in with my higher level clients and the people that are ready for it is when they're ready, like we've broken through all the human shit where it's like easy to shift our perceptions and we live in different beliefs and we live in bliss and flow state. Yet there might be blocks to like, how do I honor myself or believe that I'm fully worthy of living in bliss and flow state? Oh, well, I get to actually find other ways of expanding my understanding and like, and loving myself at a whole nother level. And that's kind of the depths that we go in this, that it's like, oh my gosh, it opens up whole other just capacities and abilities for people that then they just have more ways of sharing their gifts with the world. So, it's to each their own what they're ready for and what they feel called to.
And I think that's really important to point out, that doing the work first and getting like to that point and just allowing something to push you to the next level is really important, because it's going to make the experience so much more enjoyable and easier. And also maybe take away more out of it on the other side.
Yep. Yeah. And so some people, it's like, it might be a big process for them to just start looking at how they get to, be worthy of expressing, right? And speaking what they think and feel, and how to like live more in alignment on a day-to-day basis. And when someone else is ready for the next level of expansion, it appears, it always shows up for you. That's what's beautiful. There's the more that, as much as I've done inner work for a good 20 plus years, and all the things that I've done, I continue to find, even as I went through Europe and I did all these activations in my DNA and opened up like, activated dormant DNA and crystalline consciousness, and was just like, saw this other deeper understanding. Now I've opened up all these abilities with like literally seeing the cosmic field. I can actually look up in the sky at nighttime now and I can see the cosmic field. I could have never seen that before because my consciousness wasn't ready for it. So it still continues to, and again, it's me on this beautiful journey of how much more can I receive? How much more pleasure can I accept? How much more can I love and joy and abundance and dance and play can I experience? Because the more that I am tuned into and aligned to the divine being I am, the more, of course, then that is what I receive.
Yeah. Isn't it crazy that we have this, like, people will call junk DNA, and then, right? Then when you do something like that, to actually activate that junk DNA, or then they think you're crazy. And
we're told like what we use like 3% of our brains or something. It's like, no, just have the rest of it's just dormant. It's just dormant because we've shut it down and we can actually activate. Imagine using all of your abilities and continuing to open up all those abilities. That's what we're saying. That's what we're talking about, is activating those things and becoming in alignment to utilizing those things, which is totally possible.
Right. So, getting to the end of the show, and that leads us into the next question. What is your superpower? I'm sure you have many. You definitely do.
Funny. I don't know that I've ever had anyone just ask like, what's my one superpower? Because I was just like, the thought that comes to me is like, well, I'm me.
Right.
You know, like it's all beautiful power. I would say like even in gene keys is like a whole nother conversation I'm sure we could get into, but even my gene keys and my specific DNA frequency, this is something that's spelled out where it's like, I see the micro to the macro. I see all things. So, and that's one of the things that on my beautiful internal journey, I became aware of as, you know, I first started with like fighting the body because I didn't love myself. And so I wanted the perfect body to be loved and good. And once I went down the internal journey and recognized, I actually understood the connections to like why people would sabotage. And I could hear in their words what their identity patterns were and their programs and what's happening. And the more I leaned into my genius, I found that like, I have this understanding of kind of all things. So like I see like the fine tuned things that will just, it's kind of like you know, how if a plane just is off a degree or two, all it needs is a degree or two and it goes to its destination. I see the micro alignment. So a lot of times what, you know, even high level badasses, again, I coach some of the biggest badasses in the world with some of the biggest companies, and they're badasses that are super conscious. And yet I can see a fine little tweak and then they fine tweak that and it, you know, shoots them into, you know, it's like a catalyst for a whole nother level of acceptance and love and receiving and, you know, millions and blah, blah, blah. So I would say my gift is calling out the bullshit and just aligning people to in the micro alignment, which it makes it really easy. When we see the tiniest little things that we get to shift, it just gets to be so easy, and yet it can make the biggest difference. So,
well, especially when you're operating at that level, like the faster you're moving, those little shifts, those make the biggest difference.
Yeah. And really for everyone, I want to say, because I mean, what I found most people, even on my online programs to my masterminds, et cetera, they're always like, I thought it was going to be like, you know, they're so ready to figure out why they're blocking themselves, why they sabotaging their business or their body or relationships or things. And it's like, they think it's going to be some big aha. And they're like, what they find is it's the daily little fine tweaks that we make and the aha, like the little tiny things that we implement, and they're practicing and seeing this, oh, this is showing up in my programming or my patterns. Interesting. What's that really about? And we break it down and we see it for what it is, and we learn how to implement something different. And it's those tiny little things that their whole world shifts so quickly. Like within weeks, I've had a lot of people, like they tend to double to quadruple their business, and their, you know, relationships completely shift and everything shifts. And it was just from the little tiny things. And they were always like, it's like, it was these little tiny things that made the big shift. So that reaffirms for everyone, hopefully, that it can really be so easy.
Right.
You can have such a time hop in a timeline shift and create a completely different experience. If right now, today, in this moment, you choose, like, you know, actually, does the thoughts that I'm having, the words that I'm speaking, the feelings are they all in alignment to the divine being that I am? If they're not, if the action I'm taking is sabotage and it's really saying that I'm not worthy, wow, interesting. Like, you know, what would a different action be that would reflect the divine being I am? And just by making that simple little shift in choice, it might be like, you know what, I'm going to speak up for myself and say, hey, you know what, I'm noticing I would really love to create this, instead of just holding back what I really think and feel. Just that small little practice, and all of a sudden you're becoming someone who's saying, I'm worthy of being heard. I'm worthy of expressing. I am worthy of it working out for me too. And how much that vibrationally and everything else, and if that just little pattern is practiced, how much that can completely shift the things that show up for you, because now you've spoken up, and the gifts that you receive and the opportunities and how your timeline can completely change from a simple choice in front of you.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a big shift. Like, think that people a lot of times are expecting this like big aha, this big event, and it's the little things that make the difference.
Totally.
So, final question.
Yep.
You kind of answered it in the last one, but
okay.
what's one lesson that your body has taught you about life? Because I really truly believe that your body is a metaphor for success and all these things that happen to us to become successful.
Well, my body is one of my greatest teachers. I mean, we could go off on this subject for hours, because obviously, I mean, I healed my son with breast cancer. I had all sorts of sicknesses and crazy diseases from the time I was little, because I believed that the body was something you had to fight. I saw my dad die of diabetes. You know, I had all sorts of family members die of like cancer and all sorts of things. So the body is just a reflection of what's emotionally going on. So any disease or dysfunction or disconnect showing up in your body is from the disconnect or separation of your true self internally. So hence I've had I so many things that my body has taught me. And the beauty is, and this is actually what I teach also in those freedom audios that we can give your peeps access to, is that your body will always be the first thing to show you what's going on. It's not your body reflects what's already been subconsciously going on with your thoughts or your feelings. So it's like, even if you're like, you notice you have a headache, it's like, ooh, like I'll teach people like what the core areas actually reflect. So it's like, oh, what could I be angry about? And when you just ask yourself that question, you're like, oh, I noticed I'm angry that this person, they said that an hour ago and it kind of pissed me off, but I didn't really give it presence or put voice to it. So hence that energy and that emotion created a dysfunction in my body that created a headache. Or, colds can be too much going on to, anything from, there's so, like, your body is always teaching you what's going on. So, I've definitely learned how when we try to limit our vehicle and our vessel, and everything from creating injuries to sickness and disease or anything, it's all just a beautiful reflection of what's emotionally going on inside ourselves. So it's actually one of the greatest gifts. So I would say that it's taught me how to see what's going on inside myself. It's been a beautiful gift and reflection of that. Mm-hmm.
I love it. So where can people find you? Where's the best? I'm going to share your audios, but I want people to be able to get more of Marci Lock.
Yeah, perfect. Well, obviously, I said that the only place that because I still to this day, I'm not doing paid ads or target marketing. Yeah. Facebook is where I just, share my daily expressions. If you go to lockglass.com, that's where, anyone can get free access to those freedom audios, as well as my Lock Glass formula audios and videos. So my Lock Glass formula is like the base formula even my $1 million clients start out with, where it's like learning how to actually start to implement a formula where you can start to create awesomeness in every aspect of your life. And you're just starting to practice that. So, and then obviously in my family community that you can get access to through Lock Glass, I do live trainings all the time. And, like last weekend I had an expert friend come in town that did Qigong. Like, normally you'd spend like $500 paying a Qigong expert. We did a whole training and we videoed it and it's in there live. Like there's like nice. All these trainings and things that it's like my way of like, I want to give as much value to my peeps as possible. So lockglass.com. And then soon we're about to launch, the new marcilock.com, which actually will give people the ability to go do their own individual quiz that kind of helps them dissect and see exactly where their specific blocks are focused on and what to start with. And so there's lots of resources to serve and support, but Facebook following me and lockglass.com where they can be in the community of all the trainings and things, that's probably the best place to always know what's going on. Okay, awesome. I'll share all that in the show notes for everybody that's listening. And you are truly an enlightened individual, and it was an honor to get to speak with you. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate being your perfect reflection and mirror. Yes, thank you. Yeah, you have an amazing day, my friend. You too. To all of you. Thank you for listening to another episode of the SoulAbility Podcast. I really appreciate each and every one of you, and your feedback is the key to making this a show at the best it can be. Thank you again. Peace and love until next week.